like the church is a place where we ought to be able to talk openly and honestly about these areas. And I promise you that tonight we will not insult your intelligence. But before we go on, I think it's really important that we all start at the same place. And that's with this idea that we just want you to know that sex is awesome. Okay? Sex is fantastic. It is amazing. And it's a creation of God. It is creation of God. So look, think about it. When God created the whole world, He creates man generically, male and female. He created them. He's got all creation. He's got the man and woman in front of him, and of course they're naked. How does He respond to that? Does He say, ew, gross, put something on? No, He doesn't do that. Does He say, they'll have to do? No. Does He say, well, that's pretty good? No. What did He say? That's very good. And the fact that God created us sexual beings is very good. There's nothing dirty, gross, or anything about it, okay? And it takes an awesome God to come up with such a great idea. But having said that, where am I? Thank you. Having said that, you got to keep in mind that this whole idea is within a certain context, a certain perspective. And that is within the context of a committed relationship where one is committed to the other intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and have gotten married. So within the context of that, all those things apply. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Unfortunately, many people have not had that same experience. And you probably know people. And maybe there's some people here who have had a bad experience. Outside of that context, there's trouble. And God didn't intend us to have a bad experience. He wants us to have the best experience. I've got to... Hold on a second. Yeah. All right, so... yeah, go ahead, throw it up there. So what is the world... I saw this yesterday at Safeway, right? This is Safeway, it's not. What does the world tell us about sex? I mean, it's right here. Sex brings you closer to that person. All right, it's a natural thing. If you love someone, you have sex. It's just another way to show that you care about them. That's enough. Next. So what does God say? What does God say? That's what the world... I mean, it's clear to us. I mean, everyone here knows what the society tells us about sex, right? But what does God say? Let's read this. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. Flee from sexual immorality. All of the sins a man commits are outside his body, but he who sins sexually sins against his own body. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your body. Why does God say that we shouldn't be having sex outside of marriage? Why does He say that? Because He just doesn't want you to have any fun. He's this cosmic killjoy who just wants you to be kept under the thumb of restraints and restrictions. No. He wants you to have the best experience that you can have. He really does. And so He has these, the perspective of marriage in which it needs to be experienced.
Okay, so we're going to talk about two major misconceptions of sex, okay? So I need two volunteers.
Some brave guys.
I need a girl.
Come on, brave ladies, come on.
Yeah. Okay, so
First date.
in our society,
Just wake up.
everybody knows what sex is, right? Okay, so my question is, what is sex?
Well, think about it. Take about 30 seconds. Think about what is sex, and then you get to share with everyone.
Did you realize? Oh, we can go. Yeah, okay.
We need somebody else.
Who will you go to?
So this is like the 21st century, right? We're all enlightened and...
Never mind.
Advanced health.
Okay, that's fine. You guys don't have to. You guys don't have to.
We're just kidding.
Okay.
Go ahead and sit down.
I mean, I know everything.
Good job. Sometimes when you're like put on the spot, you're like, what is sex? Well, sex is I'm not sure how
I
to
told her we should have got a
define it.
microphone and passed it around the room and see what everybody would say.
It'd be really fun.
Or maybe a little
Okay,
uncomfortable.
so I don't know about you guys, but most high school students would probably relate sex with intercourse, right? Well, it's not. There's actually more to sex than that. Sex is actually a whole progression. It's not just one single act, it's a whole progression. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the progression. Okay, first in the progression is kissing. And then French kissing.
How's that
That's the petting. I want to talk about petting with the clothes on, and then petting with the clothes off. And then, sometimes, and then it comes to its climax in intercourse. So it's a progression. It just doesn't, it's just not a thing of just one time, one little part of it. It starts way back at kissing, and it moves forward, and it builds on itself.
In marriage, you call that foreplay.
Yeah, in marriage, call it foreplay.
Told you we're not going to pull any punches, so it'll get worse.
So now I don't know if you guys have heard this, but there's people who say, "Oh, we're dating, but we're not going to have sex before marriage." But they mean we're not going to have intercourse before marriage. Now there's a problem with that because they're doing a lot of other stuff and they're building up their bodies, but all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we've got the petting done, but oh, we can't go any further, so we've got to stop right here." Well, that's a problem because our bodies were never meant to go start building up, and then all of a sudden stop. So a lot of times you're going to have problems like people are going to get really angry, really anxious, really frustrated if they're starting to build up. Oh, we got to stop. Oh, it doesn't want to do that.
So again, two misconceptions. The first one, what is sex? And people think it's this one act, but no, it really is a progression of things. The second misconception, we're going to see if we can. Was illustrated by a study done by some psycho geeks that study such things. I'm not a psychologist person. Sorry, if you are, I apologize. So they brought a bunch of people and put them in a room, and they wired them up to monitor their heart rate. I don't know what all they're monitoring. Their heart rate, their sweating, I don't know what. And they show them a series of pictures, right? Start first with the guys. They wire up all these guys. They're sitting in this room, turn out the lights. And are you ready with the slide? Not yet, not yet. Oh yeah, go to the black slide. Okay, wait for it. So they wire up the guys, and they say, the first slide they show is a flower. And for the guys, it's like,
makes me so happy.
But I mean, there's very little reaction, not much, right? The next slide they show is a slide of surprise me, hot car, right? Huh? All right, guys, guys, we know how we respond. This is more or less for the ladies. I'm sorry. What's the response? It's I mean, a little more interesting in the nice car. And the third photo is a cute baby. And once again, guys, we get the little not much there.
So great.
Wait. The next photo they show the guys is a naked woman.
Oh!
Nothing like a naked woman. Bing! Of course, the needle goes off the charts and the machine blows up. What do you expect to see?
A naked woman.
Okay. So the point. What is the point? This is very important. Again, guys, we'll get to the ladies in a minute, but ladies, this is so important for you to understand about guys. The things, the second misconception. The first one was, what is sex? The second is how men and women respond sexually. What gets us going sexually. And for guys, this study illustrates that men, generally speaking, are more visually oriented. Does that make sense? Some people may not understand. Ladies, you probably don't understand the depth of this, guys. Again, put up with this for a minute. So, it's really important, so I want to convince you. If you were to get in your car, who's driving? Anybody drive? Who's driving? All right. If you were to get in your car right now and drive down to like AM, PM, 7-Eleven, one of these little stores, maybe Shell, but in some of these little convenience stores sell magazines. You ever seen that? And there even are in some of these places some magazines in the back that might be covered up. Maybe hopefully they're in the back covered up. And those magazines, if you didn't know, are pornographic magazines. And I'm sad to say, in this country today, there are a lot, hundreds of different kinds of pornographic magazines. Also sad to report in this country that about half of all DVD sales are pornographic videos. It's a multi-billion-billion-dollar industry in our country. Why is that? It wouldn't be the case. I'm just trying to prove the point. It won't be the case if men couldn't be aroused visually through something they see just by looking at someone. Not.
Eyes up.
Not even. Eyes right here. Yep. Not even. No touching. Right? And women are different, right? And we got to recognize that. It's important for you ladies to recognize. You changed my pages.
I did not.
Oh, you're killing me. No, I'm just kidding. So what does this mean to you ladies? What does this mean to you? And then we're going to talk about, guys, what it means to us. Ladies, what does it mean to you? It means that your appearance actually communicates something to men, whether you're intending it or not. And interestingly, oftentimes, a lot of women are intending that reaction. Why? Because they don't understand what it does to guys and how guys respond. Yeah. So practical application. I don't know if I'm going to go into this.
No fear.
You think so?
No fear in love.
I did say I would talk frankly with you.
No fear in love.
No fear. It's okay, I can have someone read it.
So, all right. So for example, what if I snap my fingers and everybody here was in their bathing suit?
Oh, here we go.
Now, no fair having any ladies, no fair having extra turtleneck bathing suits or anything like that. Just a normal bathing suit, right? And you know what's appropriate for you. You know your body better than anyone else. What's appropriate for you to wear, and you know probably what you may or may not be trying to accentuate. You're walking down the street or the beach or whatever, and people are. If you think a guy's going to be looking at your, baby blue eyes, that's probably not the case. What you want to do though, when you're considering your dress, you want to think about where you're trying to bring attention to, because if you try to bring attention to certain features, guys, you will attract guys who are interested in those certain features. That's really a simple thing, right? And the one thing that I want to make sure that you understand, and I told you we would be blatantly honest with you tonight. You don't want, men are so much affected by the visually oriented, that you may unwittingly, if you are presenting yourself as such, you may unwittingly, if there's a guy who you have who is lusting, lust. I haven't talked about lust, but if you cause a guy to lust, or what you're doing brings a guy to lust, you might be the unwitting participant or object of his masturbation later that night. It's when I'm talking about lust turns women into objects. They're no longer a person. And that's, as far as guys go, some guys lust after a woman in a paper sack. That's our problem, okay? We'll deal with that. But the whole point is that ladies, that I want you to be aware of how big a deal it is to guys and how we are oriented visually. Guys, what's that mean to us? That means to us that it's very important what... Oh, I better let her talk about
Yeah,
the guys.
I'm going to say, guys, what it means for you guys is it's a respect issue. So when a girl is trying to get your attention on purpose by what she wears, like say she's hanging out or all that kind of stuff, it's a matter of like, what do you do with that? Are you gonna look? Are you gonna look away? And it's a choice. It's hard. It's really hard. But I'll tell you, it is a respect issue. Steve used to work in this office when we lived back in Virginia, and I don't know if you guys all know, he was an FBI. He's an FBI agent. So he was had one of the other agents was there, and she was a big boob woman, and she liked to show them off. So she would come into work every day with this really low cut thing, dress, like everything was always low cut, and all the guys in the office were like all over. Looking at her, and when they were talking to her, they weren't talking to her face, they were talking to her chest.
Eyes are up here?
Yeah. And one of the women in Steve's office came up to me and said, Kirsten, I just want you to know how much I respect Steve, because when this woman comes around, Steve is the only guy in the office that will turn away and look at something else or work on something else instead of looking at this woman's boobs. And I cannot tell you how much as a wife that makes me respect and appreciate him, because I know that he is thinking about that and making a conscious effort not to have that in his mind. So we have some group discussion questions. We're going to
You're not going to talk about the women?
Oh, I forgot. Okay, so the women.
She almost left you out entirely.
Sorry. So for the women, okay.
And this is for the guys' benefit.
We have the guys were really visually oriented, right? Okay, so for the women, we had the where you're wired up and all this kind of
You've
stuff.
You've seen the slides, so we won't do them again.
And we show you the slide of the flower. Oh, we show you the slide of the car. Nothing happens. We show you the slide of the naked man. What happens?
What about the baby?
What's the biggest thing that we get? It's the baby. We all go, ah, that was the thing that gets the biggest response. Why is that? Why is that? Is because we are touch oriented. We are like, we want to cuddle, we want to hug, we like to touch. So women are totally like differently wired than men are. Men are visual, women are touch. Okay?
And we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, we will. So we have some group questions, and what we're going to do is just talk amongst this, like where
whoever you're
at.
Next to.
Yeah, you don't break up, because we're gonna talk more, but we're gonna like do group discussions. About
If you want to throw out the discussion questions, we'll go from. You don't have to answer all of them. Just go whatever is pertinent to you guys.
Well, I mean, like, it's just like, it's hair. But, like, yeah. I mean, you can do things. But, like, what is
Oh, Mary Peterson. I was like,
Talk about these discussions.
that depends. I mean, like, I have some friends that shocked me. What do you feel about that? I love to love this. She was like, we're like, is that how you feel about the last slide? I mean, okay, guys, do you see sex as a single act or progression? Why do you think about it? Like I was just saying, I'm interested about that. I feel like when I really think about it, I think of it as a progression, but if I'm just like, oh, shit, I think of it like, because like, kissing, I don't see as bad.
Yeah, be about that.
how I thought it was. It's never been told to me.
I feel like it's like I feel like I probably do it single act and feel like it's a refreshing thing. I feel
You know what I mean? Like
In most cases, obviously, everyone's this way, but I feel like girls get like an emotional connection, like personal, and then guys are just like, oh yeah. They're like, oh yeah, and then the girls are just like, oh, my feelings are so important. Like, oh my god, they're like so together. We are gonna be together forever. And then guys are like, guys, that's how it is. So general statement is so true. You're so honest. Okay, I had to do it in 10 minutes. I'm like, God damn it. It's okay. I'm like, it's just expensive.
I mean, you can.
You know, yeah.
Take a couple minutes, guys. Okay.
I'm not putting your
I mean, like, not necessarily.
How do you think guys and girls
How do you think guys are
It's like, it's not fair because guys, I think that I'm hurting the I feel like too tight. I'm in the way of I need to be like those people.
Alright, let's pull it in.
Who do you think you are? Running around leaving scars.
What's
your jar of heart?
So this is just like conversations you have at school, right?
But actually, I get it. What actually was health class?
Right, health class.
Well, I mean, no, honestly, 10 minutes vacation.
Actually, yeah, child development.
So just to recap really quickly, the two misconceptions. One is what is sex, being it is a progression, and two, how men and women respond differently. Not understanding those two things can get us into some difficult situations sometimes. For example, guy and a girl are driving home one night. He's taken home from a date. And sees this dirt road. He says, "Hey, how about we go down here for a little bit and talk?" Okay. And so we drive down here and park in a nice romantic spot there, you know, overlooking the dump. And start talking for like 20, 30 seconds. You've been there, and then he leans over and starts giving her a kiss, and she's you know, she's thinking, she's like, "Ooh, this is nice." And he inevitably, after some period of time, his hands start to wander a little bit, and she says,
"Where are they going?"
"No, no, no." And he says, he stops for a minute, and then a little more kissing, and then again, "No, no, no." And then he stops, and then a little longer. Hear those hands go again. "No, no, no!" And then it's just a frustrating situation to find yourself in, and hopefully you're not hearing that from personal experience. But but the natural question that we have is, well, how far can we go, right? Well, I gotta tell you, when it comes to God created this to be a good thing. He created it to be something amazing, something fantastic. And we shouldn't be asking ourselves, well, how close can I get to making a total mess of this? No, that shouldn't be the question. Who again can drive? Anyone here? Who's got a license?
I have keys.
Who has yet to get a driver's license? Who's not there quite yet? All right, so got it. So when I was a sophomore, I think I was a sophomore, I went to school in Utah, Salt Lake City. I went to East High where they filmed, what was that show? High School Musical.
You were the coolest person ever. Are you actually the Wildcats?
Did you ever play the West Side Knights in a basketball game?
Leopards.
Oh, that's wait, so you like what?
I've never seen it.
Back in the day, I used to dance on the table.
You've never seen it? I like memorized. You went to
I'm sorry. But when I was a sophomore, I took driver's ed. And the full teacher that I had took me and the poor other two students. I don't know if you know where Salt Lake City is. And our high school is up on the east side. You've been there? We are really close to the mountains and canyons. And so for whatever reason, my very first sit behind the wheel drive with other people in the car was down a canyon, up a canyon. And in this particular canyon, the roads are like this. And every once in a while, more frequently than I hoped, there were these sheer drops on one side. There's no guard railings. Oh, God. I don't know what he was thinking, but I was the first driver, and I was driving, and here I am. And, yeah, the heart's going, right? So, but when I'm driving on those sharp turns, am I thinking, here's the question, am I thinking, let's see how close I can get to that edge?
No. Why?
No.
Yes.
No, I wasn't. I'm thinking, how can I maintain a safe distance from that edge?
Go slow.
So I don't kill everybody. Because I don't care how fast he is on that brake. You can get over that edge faster than he can do it. So the same thing is true in this, in the question we're asking, how far can I go? We ought to not maybe be asking that question just like that, but ask yourself, how far, where, we do need to consider where our boundaries are, where we draw the line.
Can you put up the next verse?
Oh.
Okay,
So this, I was going to say, so this doesn't even talk about like intercourse or sex or anything like that. Our relationships ought to be such that when a reasonable person is observing our activities and actions, that there's no reason for them to be thinking we're doing anything that you could call sexual immorality, which is a broader based issue.
Not even him. Okay, so here's some guidelines for how far should I go. Okay,
Blow by blow, get ready, hold on.
Okay, so we remember that sex is a progression, right? So we have kissing, we have petting. We haven't talked about oral sex or mutual masturbation.
Told you we were going to go up front with you guys.
Then we have intercourse, right? So we're going to start with intercourse and work our way back. Okay?
We know it's exciting, guys. Hold on.
So, intercourse. I'm just going to be blatant and honest. There's no easy way for me to say this, but God says that it's wrong. He says it's sin. Okay? But I don't know if you guys as Christians have heard other people say this. They're like, oh, but we really love each other. God must think it's okay because we really love each other. Well, basically what you're saying is that your emotions are canceling out God's law or God's commands. That doesn't hold up. Basically we need to face it, and it's just saying, okay, let's face it. If we're doing intercourse, we're disobeying God. So there might be another excuse like, oh, it feels so right. We just feel like we're made for each other. Feelings are not the best indicators of right and wrong. If that was really the case, then God wouldn't have given us the Bible. He would have just said, go by what you feel. It'll be okay. But he didn't. He gave us the Bible to help us guide us through life. Okay, and then, I don't know if you guys have heard this one. I hear this a lot. But we're going to get married someday. Like in 8 years? Well, that may be true that you are going to get married. Part of the problem is that 50% of all engagements break up, and you guys aren't even engaged because you're still in high school. But it doesn't negate the fact that right now it's still disobeying God, what He wants for your life. And then the last one is, well, all my friends are doing it, and it's okay. Like, they're turning out okay, or they seem to be fine. Well, that may seem to be it right now, but the problem is that we're not seeing the long-term consequences. You'll see the long-term consequences once they break up, and then all of a sudden they feel completely empty and used. Okay?
So, let's back it down from intercourse just a little bit to what people call... I'm sorry. Someone's confused this issue of oral sex, that one of our former presidents has let people believe that maybe this is not sex. I was talking with a coworker today. She and I sit next to each other. We both do what's called crimes against children. We're on the violent crime squad in the FBI here. And just real briefly, she focuses more on the child pornography cases. I work more of the kidnappings and child prostitution and things like this. And so we talk about sex-related things a lot. That's our job. And I was mentioning that we were going to give this talk tonight, and I mentioned that, you know, a lot of young people think oral sex doesn't count. And she says, "What are you talking about? The word sex is in oral sex." You have. There's all kinds of sex, and yes, this is still sex because the word sex is in it. And so that, again, is pretty simple.
Now, in the church, a lot of students are turning to oral sex to maintain their virginity.
Technical.
Virginity. It's like technical virginity. So that's
but
why we're bringing.
But it ain't. Could you show the next slide? Because there's still risks in oral sex. This is a type of herpes you can get through oral sex.
Hey, where's Josh?
I couldn't help. You know, I'm thinking what. Go ahead, go to black.
You can get STDs even through oral sex. So if someone has herpes or something else, you can get it. And the problem, like if you get herpes, is herpes erupts where you get it. So like with that, it's on your face, and there's no cure for herpes. You will have it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you don't want to Google that. I'm telling you. You can't unsee some.
That sounds like a challenge.
Yeah.
No, that's not. That's actually disgusting.
You cannot unsee some of that stuff. All right.
Okay, so let's go back one last step to petting. Okay, so a lot of times we say like touching each other with either with clothes on or clothes off. Okay, we're doing this because we don't want to have intercourse. We're doing it so that it kind of takes the place of it and helps keep us from having intercourse. Well, that's kind of a weird way of thinking, because it's actually bringing you closer to intercourse. Because remember, sex is a progression, right? Kissing, petting, or touching, well, French kissing, and then touching, and then going on into intercourse. It's a progression that our bodies start to ramp up. Now the problem is that if we're touching each other, that's not going to satisfy us after a little while. It only lasts like a week, 2 weeks of petting, and then all of a sudden you want to go to the next level with this person. So to say that that's keeping you from intercourse is wrong. It's actually bringing you closer.
So that brings us to kissing.
Yay! My mom kisses.
You're not going to say kissing is a sin, are you? Because I've sinned a lot then. No, I'm not going to say kissing is sin. But kissing is part of progression. Thank you. And I will say this. You guys all right?
Yeah, we're just relaxing.
Okay. All right.
A lot of times people will say, "Oh, I want to kiss this person to see how well we do together, how well we fit together."
Like it's a test.
It's like a test, or it's like a thing for your relationship to make your relationship healthy.
But the bottom line is kissing. You don't have to have kissing as part of a healthy relationship, right? In fact, I would wager with you, if you were to take a poll at your school and take a look at some of the relationships of those people who are heavily engaged physically, lots of kissing, I would wager that more of them tend to be unhealthy relationships, because the more you focus on the physical, the other areas that are actually more substantial, like the spiritual, emotional, and intellectual areas, they tend to fade away pretty quick the more physical a relationship gets. But the question you got to ask yourself is, what's your standard, right? What's your standard going to be? You got to know yourself, and you want your standard to be in such a place that it is not only good for you, but good for your boyfriend, girlfriend, right? You want, if you really care about them, right? You want the most, you want the best for them. You want to be helpful to them. It's about, kissing. It can also, another indicator when kissing is going bad is when it becomes more of a taking kind of thing and less giving, if that makes sense. It shouldn't be a taking kind of experience. You gotta ask yourself, all right, what turns me on? And then take a big step back. Just like that, driving down from when I was driving down the canyon. I'm not trying to ride the line, right? But I'm gonna take a comfortable distance away. And the one thing I've never talked to anyone who said, someone my age, I just wish I'd have slept around more. What? I just wish I would have. There were so many bodies, so little time. I just really regret not having slept around more. You don't hear that. You don't. I remember when I was in college, I was in a fraternity, and you guys ever heard of a sorority called Delta Delta Delta?
Yeah.
Is there a phrase?
Alpha, alpha.
Well, anyhow, I was a president of my fraternity for a little while, and I remember being in the parking lot by the dorm, and a couple girls drove by. One was the president, one was the vice president of the tryouts, and they were pulling up. I don't remember how we got in this conversation, but we started talking about sex, and I was kind of a mission-oriented person in college, and I went to all the parties, and I saw how empty many of my peers were at the time, and the things they did to get attention, and truly how empty. And I remember talking with these two girls, and mentioning that, yeah, I'm a virgin, and they looked at me like I was a creature from another planet. Interestingly, in a way that was like they were jealous. Like they had paid this price that wasn't worth it for something. I'll never forget it. And so, you don't want to go down the road and have those regrets. So, like I said, you don't see people saying, "Oh, I wish I'd have slept around more." You don't see that. Instead, you often hear people just saying, "I wish I wouldn't have." And the last thing I want to say right now is to encourage you in all of this is to seek after purity. To seek after purity. And the test for purity is this bringing me and my boyfriend or girlfriend, is it bringing us closer to Christ, or is it pushing us away? I mean, that's a good litmus test for deciding if you're pursuing purity.
So I want to talk about if you guys don't believe in God, what are some reasons for not having sex? Or maybe you can talk to your friends
outside of marriage.
Outside of marriage.
Outside of marriage.
Yeah, outside of marriage. Once you're in marriage, you can have as much sex as you want. Okay, so some people say "Oh, what if I get on the honeymoon and I don't know what I'm doing?" Okay, experience is not necessary. God did not make marriage to be for two professionals to come together. In sex, yes.
Right, sorry.
It is for novices to come together and learn together and have fun, and it is. And it gets better the longer you've been married, because if you have a good, loving, healthy relationship, you will have good sex. Go ahead.
And guys, I mean, in the man's world, there's a mentality of, well, if you're really a man, you're getting something, right? There's some of that, and it's tied to maturity somehow, which is such baloney. Because think about it. I have dogs, right? Dogs have sex. Are they mature? Oh, I mean, you don't say, "Oh, look at those dogs. They're really mature." You're right.
My dog eats his own food.
That's what I'm saying. It takes maturity to know. It takes maturity to put it off, knowing that it's not good for you and for the person that you care about.
Okay, so when I was in college, I dated this guy named Mike for a year. And one time we were...
Mike?
Yeah, Mike.
Sorry.
We were on the couch things started getting a little heated, really heated, and he stopped and he said, "Whoa, person, this is getting way too far. We need to stop." And he like got up and walked off. And I was really embarrassed. Like, I don't know if you guys have been in a situation that's like, "Whoa, you're right," but I'm totally embarrassed. But after that, I was like, I cannot believe how mature this guy was. And he came actually out of a very sexual past. He had slept around with several girls. And he had decided that he was going to follow Christ and live his life differently. And I had the benefit of that commitment. It really made an impact on me that he would take the leadership and say, "You know what, we're not going down this path." And I really respected him for it. Another reason not to have sex is that it's going to distort your relationship. So in a relationship, there's different parts of a relationship. There's your communication. So you may just be starting a relationship and, your communication's about this good, and then there's the emotional part of your relationship. It's about this far, and there's like the other things in your relationship, and then all of a sudden you have the physical part of your relationship. If you start having sex with someone, your physical relationship is up here, but the rest of your relationship is down here, like the communication, the emotional, the support, all that stuff. So it feels like your relationship is up here, but in reality, your relationship is down here. And when hard times come, there's nothing to keep your relationship going, because the physical's up here, but the rest of it's down here, and it's going to crumble. So it totally distorts where you're coming from.
Another problem that actually a friend of mine experienced, he and his wife, before they got married, they had a lot of sex. And as he relayed to me as they were divorcing, that it was really great sex before they got married, but once they got married, it was no longer this forbidden, taboo thing, and it lost all its desirability for both of them. They had been conditioned to tie that sex to something that was forbidden or taboo, which gave it this level of excitement that was no longer there in marriage. Because why? Because it's permitted and encouraged. So they, and that's not necessarily why they divorced, but I mean that's an indicator of what a big deal, an impact it can have on a person.
Well,
and not only
and going along with this actually very situation, she ended up having an affair afterwards, and that's another part of the problem of having sex before marriage, is that it gives you a taste for variety. You start enjoying lots of different bodies and lots of different relationships, and just because you have one of these on your finger, it doesn't change what's in here. So you can get this on, but if you've slept with a lot of people and you like it, just because you're married doesn't mean that's going to change you.
there is a correlation. I've done some studies and found that the more people who sleep around more before marriage tend to have more affairs after marriage.
Yeah.
And it makes common sense.
Did you put the certificate in?
I don't remember.
Okay.
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, so another thing we did is you may feel like you owe the person, like prom night comes up and they spend a lot of money on you, or it's a special occasion like their birthday or Christmas, and you feel like, you know, ooh, I
Or
wanna make it
Thursday.
special. Yeah. So you're gonna have sex with them. When Steve and I got married, we actually got married really quick because his mom was dying of cancer, and so after we got married, I flew back to where I was living, and then drove up with all my stuff to his house. And I walked in the door, and on this chair was a certificate, and I forgot to bring the picture. The certificate,
I forgot to put it in a slide. It's my fault.
the certificate said, certificate of ownership. All that I have, all my books, my things, my toys, my car, my house, everything now belongs to Kirsten Vino. We share it together. And he signed it on the bottom, and he said, you have everything now that I own, which I think is just awesome, because he gave me everything that he had. So sometimes when somebody wants something, or you think you owe them something, you do not owe them a single thing until you get married. And when you get married, that person gives you everything, and you can give them everything back. That's what sex is about.
You can keep talking.
Okay, I'll talk about STDs. Okay, STD.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah, you know it was coming. I know you guys hear this all in your classes, so we'll just say you can get an STD. STDs are not fun. When we lived in Virginia, our next door neighbor, her name is Kristen, she was a high schooler, she was junior in high school, had sex the very first time, got an STD. She got genital warts. I took her to her doctor's appointments where they had to burn them off with liquid nitrogen. Okay? It is not fun. And genital warts is actually one of the nicer STDs, but it's actually very prevalent. And then condoms. Condom use. They'll talk about safe sex all the time.
Safe sex, condom, safe
Safe sex all the time. The failure rate of condoms is 4 to 20%, depending on the condom, depending on how it's stored, depending how it's used.
We have friends who've
in their
gotten
wallet.
pregnant with condoms.
Yes, multiple friends. So it doesn't. It's safer, but it's not safe sex. So don't think, hey, we can do it just because it's safe.
We're going to wrap things up, but we want to touch on one more thing. You know, some of you might be sitting here thinking, you know, maybe I've gone too far. Don't give up. Hope is not lost. There's thousands of young people around this country who are pursuing something that they term, which is very real, called secondary virginity. And can you throw the verse up that I should have in the queue?
Yeah.
You know, when you turn to Christ, and just like when one accepts Christ in your life, He makes you a new creation, and all the sin that you've had in your life is washed away. He offers that to us, and it's not just a one-time thing. Next verse. Go another one. Did I put it in there? But now He has reconciled you by Christ's physical body through death to present you holy in His sight, without blemish and free from accusation. You can, and this goes for any sin, not just sexual sin. That we can be washed clean, we can become made new. One more, maybe. Do I have one more? Ah, yes. If we confess our sins, He is faithful and just, and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. That is true. If we confess, He will forgive us and purify us.
We can do discussion questions, but I think we're not going to do it. I'm just going to give you some practical tips. Because we can talk about sex and all this, and it's very heady. It's not up here, but we need to bring it down to a practical level. Know that if you decide, you know what, I want to stay a virgin until I'm married, you are fighting against yourself. And it's hard. It's very hard. But it's not depressing, because Jesus said in John 10:10, He said, I came that they might have life and might have it to the full. And life is supposed to be fun and exciting. And it is. Just because you're waiting doesn't mean that it's boring. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to sit down and talk with your boyfriend or girlfriend. This is going to be really awkward.
And enlightening.
Yeah. Because I don't know about you guys, but have you guys known anybody that sits down and talks about their boundaries? No, they don't. But you need
It's kind of risky.
Yeah.
Oh boy! So other practical tips. You know, I just recently learned this, that we actually have a limited, finite amount of willpower each day, and we can exhaust it. Typically, I actually learned this in like a management book, but they've determined that in the morning, early in the day, we actually have more power to resist things like eating food we shouldn't be eating, or doing activities we really shouldn't be doing. But over time and through the day, that wears off. It goes away. So at nighttime, it's all but gone. That's why bad things happen. No, that's because. That's why you got to be on your toes when it comes to late nights. When you're tired, you have less willpower to resist things. Know that. Be armed, so you know yourself, right?
So going along with that, where are the two biggest places that you're going to fall? In the car and at home when you're by yourself. The two of you are by yourself. So really, I mean, you gotta watch out for this too. Basically, just don't be in the car alone at night in the dark, and don't be at home alone.
And we don't probably need to mention the foolishness that goes along with alcohol and drugs. And you guys, have, maybe even in the news, you've seen some things recently that were brought on by the influence of some substances like that.
Yeah.
So
people do a lot of stuff they wouldn't do if they weren't drinking.
yeah.
Another one is, who are your friends and what group do you belong to? And this is going to be really important when you guys go off to college. Like, fraternities and sororities are a huge thing for this. My best friend joined a sorority out in Cornell, and the sorority, they had a special room that once a week they would all meet in, and they would talk about what was the kinkiest thing that they did with a guy that week, and whoever did the kinkiest thing would get, sexually kinky, would get an award. They had an award that they hand around every week. And she was just like, holy cow, what have I gotten myself into?
So there you had a couple people trying to normalize some behavior.
Think about group dates. If you're with a group of people, you're less likely to be all over each other. Some people aren't, but for the most part.
Stop it.
And then if you're serious, if you're really serious about this, ask a friend or your parent to ask how you're doing.
Accountability.
Accountability
is huge.
It needs to be somebody who's not going to go, oh, so how you doing? Fine. Okay.
It's all good.
It needs to be somebody who's really going to get in your business, like really ask you some hard questions. I had somebody like this when I dated Steve. It was when I were my roommates, and she would come home. She'd be like, "So, how was it? What was going on?" You know, and I really appreciated that.
All right, Josh.
Awesome.
We are going to stop.
Thanks.
And
Thank you.
Cool. So here's we have 10 minutes left. If your small group would like to go, your leaders are here. If you want to go split and debrief some of this stuff, you have pretty much free roam of the campus.
Be careful.
So if you want to stay, here, listen up, not done. If you want to stay back here, can we do some Q&A with you guys?
sure.
And then, but if you don't want to miss it, we're going to record it and put it online as well, so you won't miss it by going to small group. So if you want to stay for Q&A, do that. If you want to go with your small group leaders, ready, set, lead.
There you go.
Time out. I just want time out right now.
Let's go, everybody.
Thanks, guys. I was like right now I look like, oh, like when she's sitting talking about stuff, I was like, so like this, so like I had to make sure that this like covered my Who is this? I'm sorry. Oh, that's late.
It's not. Oh, God.
Who's rubbing my legs?
My phone's in the back.
Why does it touch me?
I'm
Here, I get off of it. Phone. Josh. Phone, catch. Okay. You know we got okay. If you can't, send me a signal. Are you guys staying?
I don't know. No, you know it's this bad day. I want to go to your hotel. That's oh my god.
Jamie, why are you mousing me? Why do you want to put it Ow!
Nicole, are we going to go?
You ready to leave? No. 3, 2, 1.
Is there water?
I don't like you mousing.
All right, ladies and gents, for the remainder of us, nice.
Oh, it's my sunglasses. If you want those.
I gotta look cool. Okay, I have a question. Here it is. What is a not awkward way to talk about boundaries?
I assume that's with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Then, you know, as long as you come across that your purpose in wanting to talk about it is out of love. I really care about you. I care about how you feel. I care about our relationship, and I don't want to overlook something that can be really a really important part of a relationship, which is how we get along physically. And I want to be able to enjoy you as a person and get to know you. But I just want to make sure I'm respecting you in the process. And I think people respond well when it's done in respect. When you're asking someone how you can help them, because you want to respect them, you want them to not have regrets. I think respect is the key.
Like we've done it with other students where they didn't feel comfortable talking just by themselves, so we went out to dinner with them and we talked about issues. We talked about boundaries with them.
You have a proxy.
Yeah. So it's kind of nice to have like a leader, somebody there to help you kind of ask some of the questions and kind of take the focus a little bit off you.
Great. Next one is, am I missing out on anything if I choose to stay a virgin until I'm married?
Yes, you
No.
are.
Well,
You are.
okay,
You're
yeah,
missing
you
out
are.
on a lot of stuff. Most of it isn't good. You're missing out on, yes, and you know, a lot of what we've talked about, we've stolen from a guy who we've known for quite a long time. He wrote a book. In fact, I got this from the library here in Sammamish. It's in the shelf, called "Sex: It's Worth Waiting For" by Greg Speck. I highly recommend it. Anyway, for the short term, a little bit of physical pleasure. Yes, there's that, but it doesn't compare with the misery, the long-term consequences that follow. It doesn't even come close.
We were both virgins when we got married, and I was almost 26 and he was 26.
You weren't?
Yes, it was.
For real?
Almost 26, yes.
All right.
You
We were in our mid-20s.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there.
So, I mean, we waited a long time, and he dated a girl for 3 years. I dated a couple guys for a year and a half, and we still waited. And
We very well, the girl I dated, I was dated her my senior year of high school and my first 2 years of college. We easily could have got married.
Yeah, and so, I mean, just looking back, I'm so glad that we waited. Just the trust that's there, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. He now has a job where he's going out meeting with prostitutes all the time. I mean,
Not alone.
not alone, but he's doing it. And it's like, you know what? I can trust this man because I know that he was trustworthy back with the girl that he dated.
Awesome. That's those are the only two questions. The other one that came in was how far can you go in a relationship before marriage? But you guys tackled that one. Any other questions that you all have floating around in your brains? Last chance to text it in if you want. Don't want to ask it out loud.
No one's going to watch the person who's doing this.
Anybody?
We just want to encourage you because in my work, I work with a lot of people who I see a lot of people on their worst day, and just the consequences that come. And granted, they're a little bit more than just, having had consensual sex with someone, but the things, the impact that can have on a person can be devastating. Devastating. And it's hard to recover from, especially in your view of yourself. And when the view of yourself changes, and when you start seeing yourself as less worthy or worth less than what God really created you, the value He gave you, when you start seeing yourself as less valuable, you treat yourself that way. And you teach other people to treat you that way. And you just spiral downhill. And I wager you guys have seen that before. And I hope that, and our hope is that you guys, and not just you guys can help your friends not have to experience those things. And maybe even learn from the mistakes of others, because, again, there's no shortage of sad and bad examples before us in your schools, I'm sure.
Right. And then also, like, if you have had sex in the past, don't go, oh, what the hell, I've already done it, so I'm just going to keep doing it. I mean, God can totally change you, and He can change your future and your relationships and how you are. Like the guy that I dated that, stepped back and said, well, we're going too far on this. God can change you, and God can change everything that's gone on and take it and make it for good.
And maybe you need help to do it. Because I know those are not things that you want to talk about people with, usually. It's something private and it's embarrassing, but bringing that with a trusted, someone who's hopefully older and has some more experience, hopefully like a parent or somebody that you trust, and help them work through it with you. Because without it, man, if it's hidden, if it's are fighting an uphill battle to try to bring it to a close. So trying to make change like that's hard. But it's great.
Awesome. Yeah, I would just, I just want to, I guess I'd love to, you guys want to close out in prayer? And then,
Love to.
And then it's 8:30, you guys, if you guys still want to go to a small group, you can, or whatever, or you can just hang out here, do what you want to do. So.
Cool, let's pray. God, thanks for making us just how you created us. Male and female, as it says in Genesis. You created us to be sexual beings and to experience that in the context of marriage. God, I pray for each one here now that you would help us to understand those differences between guys and gals and understand the potential pitfalls. And Lord, I pray that you would protect all here from the problems and the pain that can arise from bad decisions and choices. And I pray that you would help everyone here to experience the very best you've got and to be an encouragement to their friends who may be struggling in those areas. So God, I pray for each one, thanking you that you have called us to yourself, thanking you that you have offered forgiveness to each of us, that we can be new creations, and that you would see us holy and blameless in your sight. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thanks, Vino.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome. Yeah, best sex talk ever.